What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Coffeez for Closers. Joining us today is a true pioneer in the artificial intelligence space. As CEO of Celligence International and Sunwest Mortgage Company, he has not only transformed financial services through technology, but also championed equality. Under his leadership, Sunwest has dramatically reduced loan decline rates for African American applicants, aligning them with national averages, a testament to his dedication to fair lending and equality. But our guest's impact doesn't stop there. His creation, Angel AI, revolutionizes AI with the ability to make empathetic, multi-million-dollar decisions at lightning speed, a first in the industry. This, combined with his engineering prowess, boasting numerous patents in AI and blockchain, sets him apart as a leader whose innovations are truly making a difference. Join me in welcoming the one, the only CEO of Sunwest, Pavan Agarwal. Thank you, Pavan, for joining us today.
Thank you, Joe. And it's an honor to be here. We've been friends and business partners for years. So thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, I'm really, truly blessed to have someone of your stature, a person who really has impacted the mortgage industry, a person I've been following since I entered the mortgage space. And you've really been, a mentor and someone who I really aspired to follow. So I thank you for coming to the show, and we're gonna make some magic happen today. So I like to start the show with a little icebreaker, just to get people introduced to who you are. So the first thing I like to ask someone is, what's your morning routine? What's your daily morning regimen?
Yeah, that's a good question. Usually up around 7. And the first thing I do is I start, while I'm brushing my teeth, I'm posting, checking social media. I'm posting, my thoughts for the day. And also I notify my team of, this is what I'm going to do today. This is what the plan is. And then I get ready. I actually have a couple of small dumbbells in my office, and I have a little short workout routine. And the idea is just to get the heart rate up for about 10-15 minutes, and that's pretty much all you need. If you just do that every day, you can stay in decent shape. There was a time in my life when I was like going to the gym hard with a trainer 2 hours, 3 hours a day, doing all the heavy weightlifting and all that. And then I was like, you know what? I'm never going to be Iron Man or something like that. Never going to be a bodybuilder. And I kind of went off that phase, and then just my trainer taught me this very simple, 10-minute, 15-minute routine. It's like, if you just do that and eat right, you're going to be
in good shape forever.
Good shape forever, yeah.
I love it. Now, you've been the CEO of Sunwest Mortgage Company. How long has Sunwest been around?
1980. My dad started it in 1980. You met my dad once.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago.
Sweet man. God rest his soul.
Yeah. So 1980. I've been working with him and my mom since the 70s, since we immigrated to the country. So pretty much, as typical immigrant family, everyone works together, right? And you got to put food on the table somehow.
Same with our company here. We're immigrants. I came from Egypt. My brother works here. My sister works here.
Yeah.
My partner, his brother, works here. So it's very similar here at eMortgage Capital as well.
Yeah.
And when did you become CEO of Sunwest?
Around 2008, 2009, right after the Big Short.
The Big Short, nice. And then Sunwest Mortgage Company, Sunwest Bank. So there's two variations, right? There is a
Sunwest Bank. That's not us. That's a different company.
Okay.
Okay, that's Eric and Carson. I know them well. They're nice people. He's actually running for the owner of Sunwest Bank is actually running for Senate in Wisconsin on the Republican ticket.
Oh, really?
Yeah, solid guy.
Nice. Yeah, Sunwest has been. We do a lot of business with Sunwest. We've been working with you guys since we started the company, and I don't even know if you checked, but I think we can boast that. I think we're either number 1 or number 2 broker with Sunwest in the whole country.
Yeah, I believe after we spoke last, I think we're number 2 for eMortgage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are our number two,
Right.
but I think we're your number one. I'm not sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an honor. It's an honor. Now, I want to talk about because everybody's talking about AI, and Sunwest has been on the cusp of artificial intelligence since before the word artificial intelligence was a trend. And I have a couple questions because this is going to be a very AI centric conversation. But first off, what inspired you in the very beginning to start an empathetic AI model to help loan decision making?
Well, it started from my dad because growing up, since the '80s, he would tell me, "Look, this business is so simple. Just automate it. Find ways of automating it." Right. So I've been writing code since I was a kid, and the first AI program I wrote was back in 1985. So really when no one was talking about AI other than the nerds like me. So his vision was, hey, the mortgage business, it's all paperwork, it's all calculations, there's patterns to everything. He's like there should be a way so that this can all be done by complete automation, right? He didn't use the word AI, but I took it to mean AI. And so after I wrote my first AI program, it was just a small little thing. I don't even remember exactly what it did at this point now, but the uh, the bottom line what I discovered is it takes lots of data. It takes lots of data, a lot of computing power. And I said, okay, we don't have the data. We don't have the ability to store the data. Back in those days, a 10 megabyte hard drive cost $1,000, right? So I said, well, let me put an architecture in place so that we can start collecting data and start planning for this. And it always seemed like AI was just a couple of years away. So like the next chip from Intel or the next hard drive will solve the problem. So because of that, because it always seemed just around the corner, we I laid an architecture and a foundation so that we can continue to build on this. And so that became part of our DNA of our engineering team since the last 40 years almost.
Wow. So you guys are on the cusp of so many different technological platforms at Sunwest. You also created the platform, the processor, to really streamline the
Yeah.
processing at Sunwest. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's just another way for people to understand Angel AI. So we created another brand called the Processor. So because the way Angel AI works is you as a loan officer, you don't have to literally you don't have to do anything other than build a relationship with your customer, and which is really the number one responsibility of a loan officer.
Yeah, I mean,
Doing like what we're doing right now, this interaction
yeah.
and looking into each other's eyes and understanding, where we're coming from. So if a loan officer can build that relationship and build that bond with his customer, right, why should he be so stressed out over the paperwork, over the details, right? So you, Joe, I take your loan application. I say, give me your W-2, pay stubs, bank statements, whatever, and you pull those out. You give it to me. I take my phone, take a picture or scan it on my Xerox machine or whatever, drop it into Angel AI, and then I'm done. Yeah, more or less.
Angel AI will pull the rest of
Well,
the missing documents. It'll pull.
well, yes, Angel AI will automatically read the documents, scrape the data off it, right? Complete the 1003, okay, and if there are any, and it would analyze documents. Let's say the bank statement had a large deposit, then it would automatically tag that we need an explanation for this large deposit or source of funds, right? Or if the pay stub showed variation in overtime, then it's going to ask for a BOE or ask for more information on that. So it looks at every single data point on the documents, and because of that, it also catches fraud. right? Because it redoes all the calculations. So if someone tried to make up a W-2 or make up a pay stub, right? And numbers won't tie together properly. Okay, so it's very good at just catching compliance and fraud, and and it also figures out what's missing and what's needed, and automatically, so literally it underwrites on the spot, automatically adds all the conditions, and then after that we have a team that we call Angelistas. So it's a large team, is this massive call center of bilingual agents that will call your customer and say, okay, you gave me all your documents, thank you, but the April bank statement had a large deposit of $50,000. Can you please explain where that's coming from? Can you send us the backup information? So they're reaching out and having that kind of human conversation.
So who calls them?
These are we have a call center in Puerto Rico, so they're all bilingual.
Oh, nice.
Okay, and they make the call. They follow the instructions that the AI has generated, and they make the call, and they say and explain to the borrower, this is what is missing. So each loan officer, basically, whether it's through our wholesale channel, like with your loan officers, who gets assigned one dedicated Angelista. Okay, and so they then reach out to the customer, or if they need to reach out to the realtor or the title company, whoever, whatever document is needed, they reach out and they explain to that person. They follow. They're kind of like, I hate to say this, they're kind of like robots. The AI tells them what to do. They follow the instructions. They've been coached and trained really well. I don't know if you know Bill Pipes.
No.
He's like I'd argue the number one. Some people would say he's number three behind Tom Ferry. In my books, he's number one. The number one real estate coach and in the country, and he's very good at coaching customer service teams. So I hired him to coach the Angelistas. So he's coached them, and he coaches them every week on how to handle objections, how to communicate. So they're very, very good on the phone with the customer. They've been coached to have high level of emotional IQ, customer emotional IQ, and so they're able to, because they don't have to think about what's being asked, and they have to just focus on delivering the message, because the thinking of what's being asked and why it's needed has been done by the AI. And the AI gives them detailed, clear instructions of what they need and why they need it.
Wow.
Okay, so all they have to do is focus on understanding the customer, building a relationship with the customer, and making sure the message is communicated across.
That just saves so much time for the LOs. It's truly like an LO assistant.
Yeah, it is a complete LO assistant. The processing, the processor is the AI, because within the hour, so if you as an LO take the application, right, and by taking the application, you don't even fill in a 1003. You just give me the documents. The 1003 gets filled from the documents. Okay.
Wow. So it completes your 1003.
It completes the 1003 for you. Because me as an LO, when I was an LO back in the 80s and 90s, right, I hated complete the 1003. I never did it, right. I would interview the borrower. The first question is, so what do you want out of this transaction, right? What do you hope to achieve, right? And just build a relationship, understand what their goals are, and why they're buying this house and so forth, and understand their background. And based on that, I would ask them then for the documents. I need these documents, okay? And when I looked at the documents, okay, they're complete or relatively complete, and then my loan application was done. Then I would give it to an assistant, a processor, back in the day, and I say, okay, everything you need is in these documents. Go complete a 1003 and go get the disclosures out. Right? I'm not going to waste my time completing a 1003 myself. Right? There's no point. So now, instead of giving it to a human being to read documents and complete a 1003, we give it to a computer that reads the documents, completes the 1003, and its accuracy is going to be 100%. Right? A human being can make a mistake, but these these OCR systems and the cross data validation stuff, it's super accurate. So within the hour of you taking those documents, dropping the AI, within the hour, the 1003 is completed, all the verifications are done, the work number, you know, whatever, the 401 lookups, all that happens automatically. So it's integrated with all the systems out there, and your disclosures are sent automatically to the customer. So everything that what normally an LOA or a processor does is done within the first hour.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great time saver.
Yeah.
And when and the thing is, like, people get so confused by it because they're like, why is it free, right? Because we have, and we were talking about this earlier, and before we enter this podcast, like you were telling me, you have CEOs from competing mortgage brokers, right? I mean, competing, not really competing, but from other mortgage brokers that compete with eMortgage in the podcast with you. Right? And we were just talking about there are no competitors in this business where it should all be collegial
Yeah.
and work together. The market is so huge. So same thing, like I make the Angel AI completely free and accessible
To every
to
company.
to every company, even like, whether you work for Cross Country or Fairway or Freedom or whatever, or Movement, it doesn't matter to me. If you're a loan officer, you can use it.
Are the Angelisas free too?
Um,
Or
if
that's only if the loan comes to Sunwest?
if the loan is submitted to Sunwest, then the Angelistas take over, right? But there's something similar to Angelistas, which we can talk about a little in a minute. But the point is that so we have loan officers from other mortgage banks, right, who would never submit a loan to Sunwest, and that's okay. They use it nonstop because they have literally stopped reviewing income and assets anymore. So they take an application, right, and they'll just drop it into Angel and let Angel tell it what the qualifying income is and what is any problems or what the assets are, and their loan is basically set up for them. Right.
Wow.
So I've got LOs calling me and thanking me, saying like I've saved me hours every day, and I don't have to, given where margins are and things are so compressed. Like I need another assistant, but I can't because I don't have the
Money to do it.
money to do it. And now I've got Angel and
It's a free assistant.
yes, his free assistant is the best assistant I ever had because
He's accurate every time.
exactly.
Yeah, LOs, make sure you get a free assistant with Angel AI. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you face bringing Angel AI to life?
Oh, shoot! It's decade plus of work. So what AI is all about training, right? And so we've been running, loans through it constantly, nonstop, and it learns a little bit at a time, and then it can make a mistake. So in the early days, it would make a mistake, and then a human being has to get involved and deal with it, right? Just before we had the warranty. So just all that constant learning and adjusting and tuning, right, creates, this, it's a big challenge. There's a lot of work to do. And that means that our mortgage process, right? So the way Sunwest is organized, it's not organized like any other company because it's all centered around the AI. So our people never worked or I would say not never, but for a long time have not worked in a traditional way that you would normally expect processors and underwriters to function. So they were always supporting the AI, and if the AI kicked out an exception or did something incorrectly, then their job was to go in and correct it. So we had a very non-traditional workflow for the last 10, 15 years. So the challenge has been just running enough scenarios through. So since 2018 when we officially launched Angel AI, and a year later in 2019 we put in the warranty, right? So where we said, okay, I've done enough transactions through this, we've tested this so much that I'll say that if it got something wrong, I'll eat that loan. Okay, so that means if you got it wrong, and let's say you got a DU approval when it shouldn't have been approved because the income was wrong or whatever, right? I'll fund it anyways, and I'll balance sheet it. Okay,
Wow.
since 2019 to today, I've had to balance sheet about 4 loans.
Or
Yeah,
that's it.
that's it.
That's an
Yeah,
amazing precision.
yeah, yes, and we've since 2018 to today, we've been done over 200,000 transactions through Angel AI.
So every deal that Sunwest does is ran through Angel AI.
Correct.
So how much of a cost savings has that been for Sunwest?
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, I think MBA put out something recently that like an average mortgage banker spends about $13,000 per closed loan, and I think that includes commissions. So let's just say half of that is commissions. So that's $6,000-7,000 is the operating cost for an average mortgage banker. Okay, per loan, and you know what the margins are these days. That's
Yeah.
like your operating costs. You're already underwater. Forget the commissions, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, the 3 years ago we were at about $300 a closed loan, and we've made it more efficient than that. So we're under 200 probably. I haven't checked lately, but my guess would be between 100 and 150 a closed loan.
So that's all it costs you to close the loan now?
Yeah, right.
You
And
should be
then
making more money with Sunwest.
yeah, so of course, then you have the out of pockets like credit reports and stuff.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
I'm not including them. Credit report these days is $100 a loan or something.
Fannie
Yeah,
reissues and
right,
this, that, and the other.
right, right.
Yeah,
So,
they're cheap. Well, are they more $100? No, they're like 60 to 80.
so whatever it is. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's not 100 yet.
yeah.
Stop adding inflation to it. We're not there yet. It might be by the end of the year, but
20% inflation rates, maybe.
so you've had such a vast background in so many different so many different professions. You've been like expert engineer, mortgage professional, CEO of one of the largest mortgage bankers in the country. With all that experience, like, what do you think some of the needed traits are for a mortgage CEO or a tech CEO in this environment, in this rapidly changing environment?
That's a good question. I mean, we were talking about that again. Another thing we were talking about before the podcast started, which is our kids, right? And we're talking about how kids these days are making so much money because they're on YouTube and whatever. And my son, 10 years old, and when he was 9, he went through this YouTube phase and he made some money because he got some viral videos. And at 10, he grew out of that phase, and now all he does is soccer and track and Ninja Warrior. Now he's just sports, and that's it. That's all he could think about. And I would rather he's doing sports all day long than being a YouTube star. Okay. And because when you're doing sports, especially competitive sports like soccer, right, you are learning the real
Teamwork, yeah.
lessons of life, which is the real character, right?
Yeah.
When you get hit, right, and you lose or you win, and knowing how to win gracefully and how to lose gracefully, how to take a hit, right, and how to hit back, and knowing when to hit back, understanding the boundaries of life, right? Understanding the boundaries of interpersonal relationships, right? That you get with living your life and interacting with people, like not virtually interacting, not in the metaverse, but real interacting,
Yeah.
right? And ultimately, all of life and all success boils down to your ability to build relationships and create connections, right? And if you're fundamentally good at that, and if you're fundamentally good at working with the culture and the people around you and understanding cultures, especially, I'm fortunate enough to be an immigrant where I have two cultures, right? I have my Indian culture and my American culture. And I think that's an advantage to my kids because now they grew up in multicultural environment. So they're able to understand that not everyone is the same, not everyone thinks the same way, right? And similarly, you grew up in multiple cultures as well. So when you have that kind of core understanding, then if you want to be a YouTube star or if you want to be a top loan originator or a realtor or a doctor or engineer or whatever, right? You understand, you have a better, deeper understanding of the nature of your customer. There's always a customer. right? And if you don't understand the customer, like really understand them, you're never going to be able to deliver a product that means something to them.
So you're how are you teaching your kids in this environment? Like how do you teach them to understand that sort of that philosophy of, to be outside of sports, because
Yeah.
you got your one son, he's in sports.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's the kids learn the most by watching their parents. So the most important thing is I think the biggest lesson that the kids learn is to see how mom and dad treat each other. So if the way mom and dad treat each other in front of them is the number one lesson, and if you start with that and you focus on the proper how to respect each other properly, right? That 99% of what they need to learn, they've already learned right there. So we start from that level, and then ultimately, just like I work a lot. It's what it takes to run and build multiple businesses, and I get them involved. I show them what is dad doing, right? Why is dad traveling so much? And I like to take them with me wherever I travel as much as I can.
That's
Right.
awesome.
Right. So let them see firsthand, let them have these experiences and see that, money just doesn't fall out of the sky, that you got to work for, and these are things you do, and let them observe, right? Let them be a part of your life. And automatically they will learn the right values.
Yeah, because something me and you have the blessing of is like we grew up probably poor because we were
Yeah.
immigrated.
Yeah.
And one thing that our kids don't have the blessing of is they're not poor. So how do we make sure that they have that balance, to continue to maintain that same grit that we have?
Yeah.
And that's something that, I'm always like asking everyone who comes on the show who has good kids, well-raised kids, it's something that is my kids are younger. They're all 10, 8, 3, 2. So I want to make sure, that's, my wife likes to look at our kids like, she's like, that's my life's work.
Yeah.
And like that's what I do for a living. It's
Yeah.
like that, raise them. And like, I do this and I'm good at this and she does that. So she watches all the shows because she knows I always hit you with parenting advice. um, so so that's awesome that you take your kids with you on, to work, travel. They see you grinding. They see you making it happen. Um, what are some of the struggles that your family faced immigrating from India? Your dad had obviously a much greater barrier with language, like
Yeah.
my dad. So what are some of the challenges when he started the Sunwest, and what sort of issues did he face, and how did he overcome them?
I maybe because I was just a kid back then, I never saw anything I never saw the challenge. I just saw it as fun, right? As excitement. And like coming from the poverty we came from in India to America, right? And the little things you take for granted when you come to America, like Americans take for granted, which was like luxury for us. So as far as I was concerned, we're kings, like this is great. We live in a
Yeah.
one bedroom apartment in the hood, but it was like, wow,
It's amazing.
this is amazing, right? So kind of having that childlike wonderment over how good life is,
Yeah.
right? I didn't see the challenge. Everything was always positive, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I'm an entrepreneur, is because still I like to keep that same sense of wonderment and positive
Positive mindset.
mindset about everything is so wonderful, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's certainly when I think back and look at where we were, when I was little to now, it's like, well, I lived through that. It doesn't matter what comes tomorrow, whatever God is going to hit me with tomorrow, it don't really matter, because
Yeah.
I've already lived through that, right?
Yeah.
So
I was talking to someone else on the podcast the other day and said, as a CEO, like I could take a big beating, like just like you could hit me with anything, and I'll still smile at you.
yeah,
And like you just can't hurt me.
yeah,
It doesn't matter what comes at us, but we're able to overcome tribulation. And India, all very poor. I'm from Cairo, Egypt, but I'm from this place called Hamlet Zatoun, which is like the poorest part of Cairo. Because now Cairo, there's a lot of rich parts, but I'm from so Egypt's considered a third world country, as is India. But like there's certain parts of India and Egypt that should be considered six world countries. They're like multiplied, like exponentially worse. Like I'm from those parts
Yeah.
where it's like really, really poor. Like you're on the seventh floor, no elevator,
Yeah.
in a little one bedroom. With the one bedrooms are like half the size of the one bedrooms here. They're like 200 square feet, right? And no air conditioning, right? So they're really poor. So we're really now it's like it's just crazy to live in the environments that we live in now. And then, have you ever taken your kids back to India?
Yeah, many times.
Where you grew up?
Not where I grew up. My wife grew up in Mumbai. So they spent. Actually, we were just there last year over Christmas. So they get to see their grandparents and cousins and so forth.
Nice. What's their interpretation of how the lifestyle is there?
Um, for them, they don't see any difference, right? Because my wife comes from a wealthy family over there,
Oh,
and it's like, and remember when I left India in the 70s, right, when it was basically a socialist country under you know almost Soviet occupation, you could say. Wasn't exactly behind the Iron Curtain. So between then and now, I mean, it's a different country now. It's opened up. It's a free economy, and it's booming.
love it.
Yeah.
I want to get back to the AI and ask you this question because this has been a big like debate in the AI world, and it's really like what's your opinion on the balancing of innovation and ethical considerations, especially like in high stake environments like the mortgage environment where they have to make big decisions and you're balancing empathy with it as well.
Correct. So I'll get back to the empathy. That's a big topic onto itself. But as far as the ethics of making these big decisions, so I think it was the Federal Reserve last year, or the FDIC sent out a circular about almost exactly a year ago that said it's okay to use AI to make lending decisions or banking decisions or credit decisions, as long as but you cannot use that. Oh, this is the AI's decision as the excuse. Okay, so if you can use the AI to make a decision, but then you also have to be able to explain how the AI made that decision. Okay, so you have to be able to connect the dots.
And that has to be a human doing that.
No, it doesn't. They didn't say it has to be human. They just said the AI needs to be able to spit out kind of like a receipt of how I came to this decision. Right, and so that's a traditional a neural network is very hard for a neural network. I mean, it's near impossible. You can't. The way back propagation training works is you can't explain how it made a decision. It learned. It sort of becomes intuitive, and it says, okay, turn right or turn left, it makes that decision. If you ask it how did he make that decision, well, so here are my weights, right? And that doesn't mean anything. It's not understandable. So if you to basically, so they put the bar by putting the bar there, that you have to be able to explain how you got to that decision. So if the AI says I'm going to approve Joe's loan, it has to also explain why it approved Joe's loan. Okay, that's a high bar. Okay, and it's hard to do. Okay, so the way we build Angel is, and it's not built off the shelf tools like large language models. And I'm throwing out terms which I don't want to confuse the audience, but essentially that's the technology that's behind ChatGPT. So it's not built on tools like that, and it's a custom built neural network that we built from the ground up. So because we were building it for mortgages and financial decisions, right, for us to test it that it's doing it right, we had to build it from scratch to be able to spit out the reasoning for his decisions along the way. Okay, so when the FDIC came out with that rule, we're like, okay, no problem. We already had that covered. Otherwise, there was no way for us to test our own product. We had to write the code so that it generated the logs automatically.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
right. So the ethical standard is, at least according to the FDIC, that if you make a decision, you better be able to explain why you made that decision. Okay, you better be able to explain. If you said that the credit is unsatisfactory, you better be able to explain why is it unsatisfactory. Okay, if a human underwriter underwrites the loan file, obviously they can explain why, and their notes would have some of that written down, depending on how good notes the underwriter keeps. But you could always question the underwriter, and they'll explain why. Okay, but out of the box, AIs can't do that unless you build it to do it. Okay, so that's how we know that it delivers the right decisions. That's how we audited ourselves, right? I mean, apart from the 200,000 loan files that we have put through, real loan files that we put through, it's like we run test cases, like tens of thousands of test cases every week through it. So we have a test script that goes and runs tens of thousands of scenarios and loan cases and so forth to make sure that it's working correctly. Then
AI generated test cases that you're just.
well, it's sort of AI generated. I mean, we basically taking real loans from the past, right? Changing changing the
Circumstances.
data. There's a whole process where we change the data around, take all the PII out, and that becomes a test data set that we run it through an automated script. So we're constantly testing the AI to make sure that it doesn't go off the rails.
And I think I know the answer to this one, but if you look back on your career and all the success you had, what do you think the most significant milestone of your career has been thus far?
Getting married. I mean, I got married young. I was 26, and without her, I
Nowhere. Yeah, it's like my
been
wife
nowhere.
is
Yeah, yeah,
my backbone.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's the most. Hopefully she's listening to this. You get some major kudos for that.
She knows how I feel, so there's no secret.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm up there with you. It's getting married has been, insurmountable to my success. Like without my wife,
Yep.
I'd be nowhere.
Yeah, and it's just kept me grounded, kept me thinking clearly, right? Because ultimately, it's all about listening to your inner voice, to God, or whatever you want to call it, right? People, different cultures, different people call it different things, but ultimately, it's all about having that, tapping into that calmness inside you and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
Okay, as opposed to reacting on the spot or being driven by an emotion, whether the emotion is anger or excitement, right? That's when the worst decisions are made.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that voice of reason, which often comes through your wife, is like the reason why you're able to continue to excel.
Yes.
So, what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur or innovator who's basically like following in your footsteps?
I don't follow my footsteps. I made so many mistakes.
But that's the thing. You're giving them advice now.
Yeah. You take the time, and I was given this advice, and I didn't do it. When I should have, but take the time to really write down who you are, right? What do you really, what do you hope to accomplish? The why. If you don't write down your why and define it, okay, then you will be kind of floating around, kind of in a fog, and you'll get pushed in this direction or that direction, and the path will be long and difficult. So start with writing down your why and what you want your tombstone to say when you are 100, when you're 100 years old and you're buried. What do you want that tombstone to say about you? And then from that point forward, it doesn't matter what you're building, whether you're building microchips or potato chips. It doesn't matter what your business is. Right? Stick to that fundamental, and every decision Every relationship says if it um, doesn't put you on a path towards that why, don't do it.
That's
And
excellent advice,
any
Pavan.
relationship that you have around you, which is pulling you away from that why or distracting you, okay, it's time to end those relationships. You want to stick with the people that are going to help you achieve that future, that goal.
Awesome. That's awesome advice. Awesome advice. Um, One question I have for you, and this is an issue that I suffer with my own company, is, what are some of the challenges that you face with mortgage professionals right now implementing and, more importantly, adopting Angel AI? And how are you overcoming those challenges?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting run last couple of years with this. I've gone the what is that curve called, the four phases of grief or whatever it is. I've seen that across mortgage professionals. Um, so initially it was, what is it? I never heard of it. It sounds like BS,
Yeah.
right? So complete denial, right? And then they listen to it, they may play with it a little bit, and then it's kind of like,
Still don't believe it.
well, they're starting to believe it now. They're starting to poke at it, like they're saying, well, it doesn't do this and doesn't do that or whatever. Like it's kind of almost like an anger kind of response, right? And then I would say right now we're kind of at a point where people are either just ignoring it. I get a lot of loan officers like, I don't want to have anything to do with this, right? They're so threatened by it, like this is going to take away my job, this is going to take away my future or whatever. I don't want to have anything at all to do with it. And then we have another side which are looking at this saying, oh my God, this is helping me so much.
This is revolutionizing my business.
Right. This, I could do so much more business now. So now we're kind of, the split is happening where you have one group which doesn't want to have anything to do with it, doesn't want to hear about it, and another group which is give me more.
And the early adopters, those people that are saying "give me more," those are the people who are thriving, anyways.
Yes, and I'm seeing that. Well, yes and no. I see big producers that will say never, right? That are very offended by it, and I see big producers that'll say, "This is saved my life." Right. So it's all over the board. And on the other hand, realtors immediately take to it because they don't find it as, because it helps them so much and it generates business for them, that they're not afraid of it. They don't find it as competing against their skills.
That's awesome and very fascinating. Very fascinating. I mean, adoption is something that in technology is always a major hurdle.
Yeah.
It's just a hurdle.
Yeah, and that's why the design and the approach is to keep it as simple as possible. It should be, the experience needs to feel like, and that's where the empathy comes in, that you're chatting with your best friend. Right. And so the whole empathy side of this is the responses and the training that we do is it should feel comfortable. It should feel like the way you and I feel comfortable.
Natural.
Right? We're natural, that we're chatting with each other, right? And so the responses from Angel should feel that way. And that's a constant work in progress, and it's very complicated to teach a computer to be empathetic.
It's ongoing.
But it's ongoing. It gets better. It gets more empathetic every day. So the user interface is sometimes disturbingly simple, right? Because we get loan officers and people going there like, was that it? What do I do? Right? It's just talk to it, right? And it's on purposely designed to be. I want the interface to have nothing on it, to be as simple as possible. I told the engineers I don't want any buttons. If you could do it with 0 buttons, do it. But you can't do 0 buttons.
It's only got one button, right? It's like
basically a send button. It's got one send button. So it's kind of
just like chat. It's like Chat GPT
it's
on steroids for mortgage.
kind of like that. one way to say it that way. But one of the people I get inspiration from is Apple, and I think the whole idea of a phone when they came out with the iPhone with just a single button, right, and keeping everything uncluttered, right? When you first, if you were using a BlackBerry and you got an Apple, you got an iPhone, you're like, what the heck? It's so confusing, right?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing there. How does this work, right? Where are all the buttons? Where's this? Where's that, right? But then you realize that the beauty of it is that
The simplicity.
is the simplicity.
Yeah, when I switched from BlackBerry to Apple, I was like, I need the keyboard. Like, I need a keyboard. What do you mean there's no keyboard?
Exactly.
No, the keyboard's there. You just gotta scroll. Like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to adopt Apple because I was so used to that keyboard. Then it totally died off.
Yeah. Yeah. It dies off fast. Once you understand it, it dies off fast.
Yeah.
And that's the same idea. Is there's no menus. There's nothing. You just say what's on your mind, and you tell it what's on your mind. What do I want to do? Right. And it goes. And then again, another company that we got inspiration from was Google. And Google came out with, and it was the late 90s or whatever, with their web browser, right? And they broke the mold. They did it completely different than Yahoo and the others, right? Yahoo, when you went to Yahoo, you had a million things on that page, right?
Yeah. And then a little search there.
And then Google, when you went to Google, it's just search. Simple.
Yeah.
The Google Doodle and a little search, right? And whatever you wanted, you type there. And guess what? Simplicity always wins, right?
I love that. Now I got a couple last questions for you, and then we'll adjourn. And these are all personal.
Sure.
So the first question is a 3-pronged question. Okay. What's a personal goal that you have for yourself? What's a business goal that you have? And most importantly, above all, what's a family goal that you have for this year? And this is all for this year and the next year.
I think all three of them would boil down to the same answer, which is I need to spend more time. I need to take out more time regularly. Like we described my morning schedule. What was missing in there was, 15 minutes of meditation. Right? And I need to have that discipline. I was doing that for a while, and it was like my whole life was just everything was so much better. And somehow, you know how it is. You go on a diet and then you fall off the diet. I got to get back on that. I got to get back on that diet of that 15 minutes of meditation every morning. And I think just by doing that, everything else falls in place. Like my goals for the family is, I just want, if my kids can continue to follow their heart and do what they are doing, right? That's achieved, right? There's this like you can't really make a goal for your family because they're their own people, right? So if I can keep teaching them what I know, and then their own souls have to find their own paths, right? So and I feel like they're on their personal path, and they're doing what they need to do, and that's a great thing. Where those paths take them, when that's not up to us, that's up to God to figure out where that takes them. And as far as goals for the business is again goes back to meditation and taking care of. That means making sure I make all the right decisions that offer and deliver the best possible solutions to my customers. Whether it's my customers on the AI side of the business or the mortgage side of the business, I want to make sure that they always have a best in class feeling. They always enjoy and value the service, right? As long as that's the goal, is taking care of my customers, and in the mortgage business, as you know, there's multiple customers. There's your consumer, right? There's your loan officer, there's your employees, and there's your regulators. A lot of people forget the regulator, right?
Oh, they're my best friends.
They're our customer. And finally, of course, the biggest customer is the investor, because they're buying the product that we produce. Right? We manufacture a product, which is a loan, and then they buy it.
And we actually look at our vendors as our customers too.
And our vendors, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because we have to build awesome relationships with them.
Yeah. So so everyone, another way to say it, everyone around you is your customer. So deliver the best possible, highest level of service, and at the highest level of integrity, to everyone around you, and whatever happens after that, whether you make a buck, lose a buck, it's not in your hands. That's in God's hands.
Yeah.
Let him figure out what he will decide what you've earned.
As long as we were of service at all times, like God figures it out for us.
Yes,
Every time.
Exactly.
Every time. It's just guaranteed.
Yes.
My last question, it's my favorite question, and you could answer it quickly or go into a deep discussion about it. But when you're in front of the pearly gates, what do you think God's going to tell you?
I don't know. I think I don't even think I have to wait that long. I think God's talking to us all the time. I never thought about that question ever in my life, because I think if you're tuned in and if you're paying attention, that conversation is happening continuously. Right. So just listen and stop and listen, and that's what the point of meditation is. And you can call it meditation, you can call it prayer, you can call it going to church or going to the mosque, or whatever it is that you want to call it, right? Whatever ritual that is that you want to follow that ritual, right? And you're having that conversation. You just have to
Tune in.
Yeah. Why wait until you get to the pearly gates when you can have it today?
You know what? You're the first person
Yeah.
to describe it that way.
Yeah.
When I asked that question, and it really puts things in perspective, because I'm always trying to have that conversation with God. And I actually had a discussion with a mentor yesterday about meditation, and he's like, he teaches people how to meditate. He's like an expert meditator. Been doing it for years, and very, very successful guy. Hires CEOs for Fortune 500 companies, and I don't necessarily meditate. I pray. I don't do it as much as I'd like to, but it is something that I have to learn more and tap into more, because it's important. And hearing you put that as one of your primary goals just puts it in perspective. So hopefully people who are listening right now, this is the real deal. This guy is the real deal, guys. Listen to everything he said. Re-listen to the podcast, because Pavan is one of the most brilliant minds of our time, in our generation, in this space, and now in the AI space, now trailblazing the mortgage AI. So Pavan, you've been an absolute wonderful guest. I thank you so much for joining us today on Coffees for Closers. I thank you so much for everything that you're doing for the community at large, and having that collaborative mindset for the entire mortgage community. God bless you, your family, your businesses, your ventures, everything that you're doing. I appreciate you. Thank you, Pavan.
Thank you, Joe.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching.